Convention Centre later this month. But there's some uncertainty around South Africa's ability to bring in the money. The investment conference, remember, was first announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in his State of the Nation address earlier this year, and it does form part of a drive to mobilise 1.2 trillion rand in new investments over the next 5 years. For more, we're joined by Minister of Trade and Industry, Rob Davies, from our studio in Sea Point. Thank you for being with us, Minister. You have been a minister for years. While we've been saying South Africa is open for business, it has, at some point, it seemed exhausting to me. Minister, how will this time really be different?
Well, I think in the first instance, there's been a lot of effort being put into attracting investments, the appointment of the investment envoys, the road shows all over the world, the work that we've been doing with domestic investors in South Africa as well. And also, in addition to that, we've been addressing a number of the concerns of investors. Those are concerns around a number of areas of policy uncertainty. Quite a number of those issues have been resolved. Others are well on track to being resolved. And then we've also introduced a much stronger investment facilitation service through Invest South Africa, which offers a one-stop shop service to investors, those who are interested, right through to post-investment support, so that whatever regulatory decisions have to be taken by whoever at whatever level of government, that these are taken much more efficiently, much more quickly, and with a much greater eye to the significance of the investment than we've had before. So I think that we are confident, and we know that the work has been done over months and months now since President Ramaphosa took over and announced the investment summit. The work has been done in a number of different parts of the world, and there will be some, I think, some very significant and important investment announcements that will take place at the conference itself.
So are you promising us investors with clout, since we want from them 1.2 trillion rand?
Well, indeed, there will be some investors with clout that will be making some very significant announcements at the conference itself. And then I think the conference is an event on a journey. It's not the final thing that we do to promote investment. It'll be part of an ongoing effort to promote investment, but it will be a focal point for a number of, I think, very, very important announcements that are going to be made, because, you know, we have been trying to finalize things that are pending, which might have taken a bit longer if we hadn't had this focus of the investment conference. And so I think we will see that this event, I'm certain, will be very well worth the weight and the effort that's been put into it in terms of investments that have got capacity to raise productive activity in our country and ultimately create employment, because that's the most important part of our solving the problems of poverty, inequality and unemployment, those triple challenges. If we can get more jobs, that's ultimately what the focus is about.
Minister, your opinion, is Tito Mboweni as Finance Minister a lure for investors?
Well, I'm sure that he is a person that's well known and has credibility. So I'm sure that what we've been able to do, or what the President's been able to do, is to demonstrate that there is going to be policy certainty in terms of the management of the resources of the country, that we are aware that we've got fiscal challenges, and that the stimulus package, which was announced by the President a while ago, will continue to be carried out within the fiscal constraints and the levels of indebtedness that we have as a country. So I think that that's the certainty that Tito Mboweni's appointment will be able to offer.
One of the refrains, the constant complaints has been policy uncertainty. And like you said, some of those issues are being dealt with, like the mining charter, new oil and gas ventures. We have some clarity there. But land expropriation without compensation, the debate is still going on. We still don't know who will be affected, when, how, what. Is that not something that still lingers, that the party should at least provide certainty around that as soon as possible?
Well, I think that that issue has cropped up in almost all interactions that we have with at least foreign investors. I should add that one of the other areas that's been resolved is the visa question. So the visa reforms have made it much easier for business people to travel to our country as well as for tourists. And those are two very, very, I think, important ways in which we've introduced an important reform to the benefit of the economy. But on the land question, I think that the explanation that's been given, particularly by the President, he's explained that this is an issue that's not going to go away. It's an issue that has to be dealt with. We will deal with it and are dealing with it in the same way as we dealt with what appeared to be the intractable problem of apartheid. We're coming together, putting our heads together and finding solutions. And I'm sure that we will find a solution that will enable a more substantial land reform to advance in ways that contribute not just to equity, although that's a key objective, but also to economic development, create more opportunities for growth in the agricultural sector. But we'll do so in a way that is within the broad constitutional framework that we have as a country, and that will certainly respect the rights of investors and people who have come and invested in our country. And I think that that explanation has generally been quite well received. I mean, it was, for example, endorsed by the British Prime Minister Theresa May when she was here a few weeks ago. So I think that it's a question of coming to the details of what the land issue and the land debate is about that builds confidence.
Minister, you raised something recently. How can we tell foreign investors to come and invest in our economy when government departments are not doing it? You spoke about punishment for departments that don't procure locally. Tell us more.
Well, I think this has been one of the effects of the state capture and corruption episode that we've gone through. And what it's meant is it's meant that localization designations, which when we indicate that as government we will procure from local production sources products of one sort or another in various percentages, when we issue a practice note from National Treasury through a designation that's done by the DTI, it doesn't become an option any longer whether you do it or not. It's now an instruction, and it's a requirement at all levels of government. We've seen that there's been far too little enforcement, far too many entities have just ignored that, and that particularly all the very dicey tenders that have been issued over recent years have all had in common one thing, and that has been that they have prioritized imports over local production. That's what's happened, and we've undermined and weakened this very important policy tool. So now we've said, and it was reaffirmed at the Job Summit, that there will now be greater consequence management. The Auditor General is now working towards making audit findings if somebody ignores those localization practice notes issued by National Treasury. And now there are also tighter, more difficult procedures for anybody who's non-compliant with applicable legislation, of which this is part. So I think what we want to do is we want to make sure that this tool of localization now takes root and becomes an effective way in which we grow local production, and through local production that we create more jobs.
And what about the old problem of government departments not paying small businesses, sinking small businesses when we say that they are the engine of job creation? Where are we right now? Well,
indeed, that's another issue that's been dealt with in very much the same way. it is now an instruction to pay, and here's a qualification, valid invoices within 30 days. I'm happy to say that the Department of Trade and Industry always has done that for many years now. But there are cases in other parts of government where that doesn't happen. That will now be an audit finding against your department, and you'll have to answer for it. I think that it is worth saying, though, that the problem is not limited to government. I had a meeting with the black industrialists a few days ago, and a number of them were telling me that they were they had to wait 180 days, that's 6 months, for invoices to be paid by large businesses. So I think that we now need to grapple with that issue. How do we get payment of small businesses on time within a reasonable period, that we're not disadvantaging small businesses, both by government and public entities and also by larger private entities, so that small businesses are not disadvantaged.
All right, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Minister of Trade and Industry, Rob Davies, live from Sea Point, and that's ahead of this very crucial investment summit on the 26th of October. Hopes are high.